And we're back here on the network for another edition of Coffee with Graeme with your host, Graeme Forsyth. And today we're going live with it. Decided to go live with the show today. And we'll be talking to Eugene Kaminsky today, head coach of the Winnipeg Ice AAA team in the U18 Female Hockey League in Manitoba. And a lot of great stuff that Eugene's done with this program as it started in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Since then, they've had a semifinals appearance and they made it to the finals last year as well. And right now we bring in Eugene Kaminsky. Eugene, how's it going on this wonderful morning, man?
Doing great, Graham. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And I'm excited to get into a lot of hockey talk with you. But before we get into your time with the Ice, I just want to get your thoughts on the NHL playoffs this year, how they've been going. Just talking about the unprecedented of just playoffs at this time in the summer and the year. It's something we've never seen before, but just very entertaining stuff so far. And I've had the chance to watch almost every game since I've been back here, but just your thoughts on how the NHL bubble has worked, how they've handled things so far, and what the play's been like from your point of view.
You know, I've been very impressed in what the NHL has been able to do, especially with the situation we have right now with the COVID virus going around. I think it was a really difficult situation that they probably had to put a lot of plans in place, and I think they've executed really well. The games themselves, obviously, there's for myself disappointment that the Jets didn't go any further than they did, but it was really nice to see them playing hockey again. And the games I've been watching. Some have been very entertaining. You know, last night game we had the Tampa-Boston game was a little bit lopsided. I mean, I think you're going to expect that in a situation like that in your bubble. I think it's very interesting for a lot of us amateur coaches and stuff like that. We can relate to this quite easily because when you go to tournaments on a weekend and you're playing in the same venue over and over again, you see the same teams over and over again. There's ups and downs, and when a team is playing really well in a couple of days, next day they're not playing so well, and I think you're seeing that with the NHL teams. And I think some teams are missing a little bit of the atmosphere, but I think some teams are taking advantage of it. And I've been very excited about watching the games, and I think they've done a fabulous job in keeping all the fans entertained during this time.
And that was something that I took away from it at the very start, is just watching all these teams compete in the same venue. It's got that very tournament-like aspect to it. And I think, like you said, a lot of amateur sports coaches and just coaches yourself coaching at a high level of AAA hockey can understand the challenges of what that brings as well. So I just want to get your thoughts on how they've handled the crowd noise. I know a lot of people weren't too fond of maybe pumping in fake crowd noise, but it's gone pretty well so far, would you say?
I was very impressed. I'd be very interested to learn how they're really doing a lot of that, because there's a lot of moments, and I've been trying to figure out when you see a big save or you see a big moment where you sort of hear the crowd noise, the oohs and the ahs and stuff like that. And I'm not too sure if it's the players that are in the venue or that's being pumped in, but I think it's really good. I know it's not something the NHL will want to do on a long-term basis. I know it's given them pause to think about what's going to happen come possibly in the January when the new league takes over. And I know they're concerned about the opportunity of getting fans back into their stadiums. But now they have a template that if they choose to go with bubbles, whether it's in a few separate situations or cities, or it could be in all likelihood half a dozen cities now at this point, I think they know how to execute that. And I think fans, a hockey fan loves to be in the arena, and when I equate this back to even when we watch amateur games, you like being in the arena. I know there's some facilities in Winnipeg or even outside Winnipeg where you can have an opportunity to watch a game behind the glass in a lobby or upstairs in a restaurant. And it doesn't have that same feel unless you're right there. And I think a lot of fans, as much as they enjoy watching the games right now, I think they would really appreciate being in the stands and get that extra little piece of that. And the players would as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting to see, because even though there is that pumped in crowd noise, it's not that same home ice advantage if you're that home team. And I did hear from someone, I'm not quite sure if this is completely true, but if it is true, it's pretty cool, is the crowd noise is actually from EA Sports, the NHL video games. So pretty cool how they're working with that.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So, real quick, last word on the NHL here. If you had a cup prediction right now out of the 8 teams that are left, who would be your cup prediction?
Well, it's funny, like it has changed within the past couple of weeks where um I was on the Tampa Boston bandwagon, and I love Colorado, Nashville. There's so many good teams, and all right. Sorry, Vegas. Um, Vegas right now, I think probably looks to be poised to be the number one contender. I think there's been some inconsistencies between Tampa and Boston. And Colorado now with the goalie situation is going to make things a little more difficult for them. They pulled off a big win yesterday. Um, I'm hoping sort of for the Colorado Vancouver type scenario, but I'm also a Boston fan, so it doesn't pain me to see one or the other get in there.
Yeah, for sure. And just what Vancouver's been able to do, just this team that no one expected to even be here at this point, taking down the defending champs in the St. Louis Blues in that round one of the playoffs and giving Vegas a bit of a scare in that second game. So it's going to be interesting how that series rolls out. And for me personally, at the very start, I predicted a Philly Colorado final. So I'm hopefully crossing my fingers, hoping that happens, hoping I'm right. But at the
Well,
end of the day, yeah.
it's really interesting, like in the playoffs, and I know people are equating to the bubble, and there's going to be a few asterisks besides everything. But in playoff hockey, you always get those first round upsets when you take a look at Montreal, what they did to Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
uh, and what happened to St. Louis as they didn't be able to go any further than they did. And you're right, teams like Vancouver can jump up and play really well at the right time. And you do that in any playoffs you're in. You don't know what's going to happen, and favorites sometimes just can't put it together when they really need to.
Yeah, for sure. It's that uncertainty that looms across every NHL season, as we saw
Yeah,
last year with those 4 division winners going out in that first round. So
yeah,
anything can happen. So we're
totally.
going to get into your coaching history before we get into your time with the Ice, because man, looking at your resume, you've coached some pretty high skilled teams and you've won some championships as well. So starting off with the team you coached, the Shaftesbury High School hockey team, the boys team from 2001 to 2012. Read on the website, the Winnipeg Ice website, that you reached the final 4 times with that team and 2 championships as well in those 11 years. So just talking about the learning experience that you've learned throughout those years of coaching at your time at that level.
Well, I think the biggest thing I took away from that is when I got that program rejuvenated back in Shaftesbury, because they didn't have the program there. We did not have strong players that were able to compete at that level. And it took a lot of growth from the school, myself, to really understand what it takes to get players wanting to play hockey for your school and for you as well. And we started to motivate players by creating a program that they wanted to be a part of, and that just blossomed. And then within the 3-4 years, we started to get into division championships. We went from a team in our first 2 years where I want to say in those first 2 years we might have had half a dozen wins, and by the third or fourth year we were already into conference championships. And then we did a fantastic job of being able to win games championship by 2007, and we continued. And I'm very proud of the program, and I'm still involved with it. In the past couple of years, we've been involved with it, not on a head coaching role, but as an assistant coaching role. Gord Woodall, who's now taken over, he was an assistant with me when in those early days in 2007, and took it over from me from 2012, and I've stayed in with it. We had another good championship year last year. So yeah, it's coaching boys is obviously a little bit different than coaching with the female program, but there's something to be said about being in the school and being with your players all the time and trying to create those relationships and get them to understand what it takes to be a competitive, good team, for sure.
And you hinted at it, talking about how there are differences between coaching boys hockey and girls hockey as well. But what, in your opinion, have been the biggest differences throughout the years? Because you've had the chance to coach boys hockey, and now you've had the chance to coach female hockey throughout the years later on in your coaching career.
I think it's the approach you have. I think, and it's not for I don't want to use the phrase good or bad or different or whatever it might be, but obviously with individuals, you have to temper sometimes, and be understanding more about the personalities that you're dealing with. Sometimes boys, it's very easy to use a blanket statement, blanket comment. And sometimes as coaches of male programs, you lose sight of the fact that you think they're tougher, you think they got a thicker skin than others, but that's not necessarily true. And I think I learned that when I started really getting involved in the female program, that there has to be a better way of explaining things to players, getting them to understand that maybe that's not their best game. Maybe what they're doing isn't what you wanted them to do, and just having that conversation. And I'm not saying we take it soft on them or we take it easy on them. Yes, you definitely have to be difficult with them sometimes. Definitely, you have to be hard with them, but you have to learn how to temper that. And what I've learned from even going from that side of it is coming back even to the boys program, because you can use a lot of those strategies with the boys, and I think the boys are starting to appreciate. I think sports in general, especially if I go back to when I was playing the game and how coaches handled our teams, is totally different. I don't think those types of coaches would be able to be as successful in this day and age, because players, teenagers, are a lot more knowledgeable about coaching. They're a lot more knowledgeable and have more experience than we may have had early on about what a good coach is and how to handle a player. So I think you have to be prepared with that, even from the boys and girls side.
And just getting into what you said earlier on, talking about how you said the first couple of years you guys were only reaching a half a dozen wins in the first two seasons, and then the program grew from there. So just talking about what goes into building a championship program like you built with Shaftesbury. I know you're very proud of it. And no doubt being able to build a team up like that, being able to build a program like that is such an accomplishment. But what are the little nuances and just everything that goes into building that championship level team?
I think you have to create a want by the individuals, by the players, to want to play for you or play for your program. Um, and it doesn't come necessarily from it's a lot easier when you have a very strong competitive program. Like, and if you want to label it at whatever it happens to be, players will come to you. But when you're not a very strong competitive program, you have to find other ways to have players and families, for that matter, make sacrifices and be willing to play for you. So creating relationships with them, getting them to understand that they're going to get the opportunity to play, work on developing their skills. And the biggest thing that we learned early on is and it's as corny as it sounds, you have to make it fun for them. No matter what level you're at, and I guarantee you that you go back into the bubble back there with the NHL teams that are there, they're working really hard on maintaining a fun atmosphere for all the players. It doesn't matter what you do; everybody enjoys having fun, and if you can create the fun atmosphere, win or lose, they will want to be a part of that program. And that's what we noticed. Like when we had 2 losing seasons, but word got out that it was enjoyable. They enjoyed the coaches. They enjoyed the whole experience. Then you're going to start to get other players that want to be part of it, even stronger players. And they get tired of certain programs. They want to come to your program. And so that's a key aspect on building any new program.
And talking about just the turnover in high school hockey, because it's very rare that you're going to see the same team come up in the next year unless you're selecting all grade nines and they plan to play the next year. I'm assuming that would be one scenario, but just there's always some turnover in high school hockey. So talking about how you've created a fun atmosphere with that team being the biggest part of it, do you think that's maybe the most important thing of getting players to come play for schools like that, especially now when you're building a program like the Ice, creating that fun atmosphere is such a big thing.
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm not a big um, I'm not a big guy about going out and talking to players and even recruiting them to come play, come play, come play. If I have to really twist your arm to play for me, it's not necessarily that I really want you to play for me. Then it's not. I want you to be here because you want to be here, and so we have to set the platform for them to walk in the door and say, yeah, this is a place I want to be, regardless of the talent level around you, regardless of the commitment, regardless of the cost. That's a place they want to be. And so it's that was key for us early on, and for sure in Shasbury. And then that we just maintain that. And once you create a culture of that, families like, and especially in high school, like you talk about the turnover, we've had uh, multiple families that have had brothers that have come through the same program. And as soon as they hit that first opportunity to play high school, their younger brothers are wanting to try out for the team because they've seen and they've experienced it. And when you're in a high school, you have a community, and word gets out in the community. And hockey in general in Winnipeg is a small community, and word gets out, and people know coaches, and people know who the good coaches are. People know who are the good programs that they want to be a part of, and that's really important. Is creating that culture and letting it speak for itself.
And just talking about how high school hockey has grown over the years, because in the past 5 years, it's become such a big thing. There's players, like you said, that are, instead of playing at that club level, like maybe at the AA or AAA level, they're deciding to play high school hockey. So, just what do you think goes into how high school hockey has been able to grow so much here in Winnipeg, Manitoba?
Well, when I started in 2001, we had 18 teams competing in the league at that point. And it quickly grew, and I want to say there's over 32 to 33 teams participating right now just in the boys' high school program. And you'll see that in the girls' high school program as well. It's grown. I think there's one of the key aspects. There's many things that make high school hockey attractive both to the players and to the families. You don't have as many weekend games, if any. A lot of your games are early. A lot of your practices are early. So student athletes are allowed to compete for their school, be cheered on by their friends and their schoolmates, and then have the opportunity to do whatever they want in the evening. I also know, like coaching obviously on the AAA side, a lot of your practices are in the evening and a lot of your games are on the weekend. So it's a different type of sacrifice. So I think for the boys, I think there's those opportunities. The game has become just as competitive. I think you've seen the boys' high school game become very competitive. Very strong athletes have gone through the system, and some have even made their way into the NHL. So I think that's the key aspect. I think they just love playing for their school, and they just love the accommodations that the programs bring to them.
And Eugene Kaminsky joining me here on this edition of Coffee with Graeme. For those of you that don't know, this is one of the few times that we go live. We decided to go live with the show today, and things are running pretty smoothly. Been enjoying to talking with Eugene today. Eugene giving the little hand sign there. Love it, love it. But yeah, just no commercial breaks today. Just want to let you guys know that other than these shows, Coffee with Graeme, we got plenty of other great shows airing here on the network. So stay tuned for that on our social media pages at Amateur Sports TV. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and here on YouTube as well for everyone watching on YouTube. So talking to Eugene about his coaching history so far, we got a bit into the NHL before we got into his coaching history, talking about like life in the bubble and stuff, what we think it's like, and just talking about his coaching history, starting off with the Shasbury Boys High School team that he coached from 2001 to 2012. Now I'm going to get into your time with the Shasbury Titans prep team. Being the director of hockey operations and head coach there is such a big accomplishment, and you've done a lot for that program. Saying that you've helped promote to various universities and colleges, winning various tournaments in that time, and that helped the program grow to one of the top prep programs in North America. So just starting off, hearing that word, growing to one of the top prep programs in North America, there has to be a sense of pride there, I bet, Eugene.
Oh, totally. Like I think there's every program I've been involved with, I have a special place for it, and the Titans prep team is without a doubt one of those special programs we've had running for 4 years. Again, it was one of those situations where it was a new program. We had to start right from scratch, from square one. We didn't know what we were going to get ourselves into. But again, and not to really pat myself on the shoulders too much on this one, but again, going back to relationships, and prior to me getting involved in the prep program, I had coached a lot of female hockey, summer hockey at that point, and so I created a lot of relationships with families and a lot of the players. And again, they enjoyed being part of the program. They enjoyed what I brought to the table as a coach. They believed in me. They trusted. As soon as they heard that the program, yeah, I got scared there for a second.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Might be my Wi-Fi. I'm not too sure. But as soon as they found out that we were having a program, a lot of families started to inquire and they wanted to be a part of that program. And I had an added advantage in the sense that being a teacher at Shaftesbury, I was directly connected to the hockey and the school. And I was a great liaison for the school. I was a great liaison for the program. We continued to grow the program. We've had numerous players that have gone on to illustrious careers in the NCAA, CIS, or U Sport program as of now, or Division III, or out west in the other programs that they have. So very proud of that. And I'm proud of the relationships we grew there as well. Many of the girls remain in contact with me. We've just had our tryouts, so we had many of the girls out there helping out with the program. So I love seeing that. We had a lot of talented players, and again, we were able to grow the program, just giving them something and a place to show what they could do, and at the same time maintain some strong academics. So that was really important, and I think that was a key thing for families. Again, trust and building relationships.
And yeah, for sure. Anytime you build up a top program like you did in Shaftesbury, there's definitely a lot of things that go into that, like those relationships, those connections you make, and just your philosophy of you gotta have fun out there too, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it is just a game, and if you're not having fun out there, there's not much point of playing. It's a bit of that 50-50 with the winning and having fun too. But just talking about not only on the ice, you guys built such a solid program, but behind the scenes, I'm sure a lot went into the development of the players there too. Just talking about, you talked about the connections that you built with families and stuff. Do you think that's one of the biggest parts of why you guys were so successful as well?
Well, again, going back to what I said earlier about the hockey community in Winnipeg being relatively small, and word gets out. And at the time, there were the three prep programs that were running along. So, like anything, you're always competing for players, and some players would choose to join the program, and some players would choose to join other programs. And like I said, like you have to decide what is your for you as a family in your best situation. And some families felt that maybe this was a better situation than the prep, but as long as we maintained um, the credibility of providing an honest, true program for players and taking care of their daughters, families recognize that that was an opportunity for them to play. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes. The school was great. Again, I had a strong relationship with all the teachers. If that doesn't work unless those teachers buy in and the school itself buys in. And when there were fires, I had to go out and I had to figure out what we needed to do to fix it. And teachers again trusted me because a lot of the time was scheduling and creating a program that they could do their academics without sacrificing too much, and at the same time inconveniencing teachers at the same time. And so working with the school, they were willing to do that. But at the same point, I had to hold the players and families accountable that you can't just take advantage of trips all the time that we go away. You're still accountable to your education. And there was myself and another teacher that would travel with the team. So we were always providing lessons during the day and teaching opportunities during the day for and study time. Again, parents trusted that, they believed that, they saw the benefits of it. And when they heard about that and other families heard about that, they said, well, yeah, I want my daughter to be part of that program. I think that gives her the best situation. So again, and when that happens, you have the luxury of deciding on which players you want in your program. And there were a lot of players, and it's not, unfortunately, that couldn't be part of the program for one reason or another. And it was usually talent, sometimes attitude, that we didn't want to be part of it. And again, being part of a prep program, you have that luxury to decide who you want and don't want, because you can do a lot of research and do a lot of insights to who you have in the program.
And of course, you being a coach, you've had to make a lot of calls where maybe some players wouldn't be too happy with not making teams. It's always tough as an athlete too, if you're trying out for a team and you're not able to make it, and getting that news is pretty heartbreaking to hear sometimes. But I know as a coach, it must be pretty difficult sometimes to break that bad news. But you've had a lot of experience in that. Has it gone a bit easier throughout the years, or has it always been kind of not that big of a deal letting players know that, hey, you're not making this team?
It's never easy to tell somebody that you don't want them. However they internalize it, at the end of the day, that's the message they're going to hear, is that they're not good enough. And you do your best as a coach, as an adult, knowing that you're talking to impressionable individuals, even as teenagers or even younger, that they're not selected for that program. And those are difficult. It's coaching is not all fun and glory. You take the good, you have to take the bad. And having to release somebody or tell them, or a family or a player individual, that they're not part of your program, yeah, it's difficult. And it never really gets easy. Maybe you get a little bit more thick-skinned about it. And sometimes you have to be prepared to accept the criticism from individuals, and that's just all part of coaching again.
And like the old saying says, as you did say a bit earlier in that sentence, in that answer, is you got to take the good with the bad sometimes. And as I like to add, roll with the punches. And yeah, for sure. And just now getting into your time with the Winnipeg Ice, and I didn't know this until the other day, but this is a program that started in 2018, I believe. And you guys have, I said it in the intro, you guys have had great success in these first two seasons, making the semis in the 2018-19 season last year, making it to the finals, and you set up a heavyweight matchup with the Winnipeg Avros, the top team in the league. Unfortunately, getting canceled due to the pandemic that hit, the COVID-19 pandemic. But just talking about what you've been able to build in these first 2 years with the Winnipeg Ice, I mean, you've been legitimate championship contenders in these 2 years, just looking at the team you put out, looking at the record. So just talking about how you've had pride with those other teams that you've coached, how much pride have you had knowing that you've been able to build this program up like you have with the Winnipeg Ice?
I think we are extremely proud of what we've been able to do in such a short period of time. I know like you said, the program was there in, I want to say, 2012, 2013, somewhere in that range. It lasted for a couple of years with the Winnipeg Ice, and the Winnipeg Avos, they started their AAA program at that point. But after that, then they weren't able to support the two teams. So the Winnipeg Ice, who was probably the least of the successful programs at that time, they just went down to the one team, the Winnipeg Avros. And with the strong support of Hockey Winnipeg, they recognized that there's a lot of talented individuals out there that could play at a AAA level, because they were starting to notice that they were losing players to other programs outside the city because there wasn't enough room for them on the Winnipeg Avros. So they'd made a really smart decision, along with Pam Campbell, and said, hey, you know what? We need two teams. And everybody sort of suggested that there's just not enough players to support two teams. I was one of those ones that said, no, I think there's tons of players out there that you can support two teams, because at the time I was coaching a Bantam AA team, girls team at the time. So I saw what was coming up, and I said, we have enough. And so they went ahead with that. And sure enough, we had a great tryout that first year. We had lots of girls to select from. With our coaching staff, we have a fantastic coaching staff. We we decided, okay, we're going to make this sort of a 3-year program. We know we're not going to be, our belief was that we weren't going to be strong in the first year, and we wanted to be competitive in the second year. But in that first year, and I think I want to say in the first 6 games we played in that first season, we only had 1 win. So which a lot of people anticipated that, but again, we were focusing not necessarily on the wins, but developing players and growing them for the futures, because we picked a lot of young players. But as the season rolled on, we continued to win more and more games. And I want to say in our last 22 games, we only had 3 losses. So, and it got us into the 4th position, and we were able to win our first playoff round and make it into the semis. So, which is a huge accomplishment. And then last year, same thing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, keep going. Yeah.
And then last year, same thing. We knew we had a good team, so we wanted to be better, and we competed all the way right to the end, finishing second. And I think that shows the accomplishment from Do Hockey Winnipeg, and recognizing that we have enough players that both teams from Winnipeg finished first and second, and both teams were in the championship games. So I think that gives credit to the players in Winnipeg and the vision that people had.
And just looking at, you talked about the talent, that you were one of the strong believers in knowing that there's so much talent in the Winnipeg female hockey scene here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and just looking at your roster, the players that you selected this year. And I'm sure that the returning players that you got coming back, it's just kids from Vincent Massey Collegiate, St. Mary's Academy, Miles Mack, Sturgeon Heights, one from Belleville, even Lord Selkirk too. So just the talent level, the talent pool of hockey here in the female scene in Winnipeg is at an all-time high, I think. And it's never always been like that. But in the past few years, it's really taken its next step. So how proud are you to see the female game grow to where it's at today?
Well, it's a huge accomplishment. I have a couple of daughters that have played hockey, and one played with Pembina Valley, who's coaching with me right now, Jessica, who ended up winning an Esso Cup championship. So obviously there's a appreciation to where the game is now. I've been witness to the growth of the game. I remember when she was younger, I want to say she was around 10 years old, and we were thinking, maybe, because she was playing boys hockey at the time, and we said, well, maybe we should get her to play girls hockey and just let her enjoy it. And we went to the skate, and being one of the youngest players there was only about close to a dozen girls on the ice, and we realized that this is still not the place for her to play, because she's not going to gain anything from it. So we continue to have her play for the next 2 years boys hockey. But now when I look at where the game is now, and you take a look at, they have girls programs at the 7-year-old age, and the number of girls that want to play hockey has just gotten so much larger. And I think it's going to continue to grow. And I think if you take a look back even 10 years ago, from the talent pool of players that were available in Manitoba or even across Canada, it has significantly changed now, and exponentially grown over those years. And so the talent pool is so much bigger, and a lot of those players that played AAA back then would have a hard time competing now in the AAA programs, because there's just so many good hockey players out there right now, not just in Winnipeg, across Manitoba and the country.
Yeah, for sure. And it's awesome to see. I know earlier this year in March, we were out at the what's it called now? I'm forgetting the arena, Canlan, yeah. And it was the Women's Army National Championships here in Canada, and it was just awesome to see the level of these athletes and just the skill as well. It was really something amazing to see, and it's great to see where the women's game is right now and how it's going to continue to grow. So I'm with Eugene Kaminsky, head coach of the Winnipeg Ice AAA U18 female hockey team in the Manitoba Female Hockey League here in Manitoba, I guess, and just talking to Eugene about what what his experience has been as a coach throughout the years, talking about just getting into his time with the Winnipeg Ice since he's joined that program 2 years ago. And I just want to thank everyone so far for tuning in who have tuned into this live broadcast. It's been awesome to see. We've seen some of the numbers go up so far in the show, and yeah, it's been awesome so far. But just talking about coaching with your daughter, and just talking about the bonding experiences that probably brings. Just I know you were talking to Theo earlier in the year about how she's made some pretty key calls for you guys in the playoffs with forward lineups too, managing the forwards. So how proud have you been to see your daughter step into such a big role at such a competitive level of women's hockey?
Well, I'm exceptionally proud of her. I think I've been able to watch her grow in her coaching ability from the first couple of years we coached together at the Bantam AA level, and in the past 2 years at the AAA level. I knew she had the knowledge of the game with regards to playing a Division One program. Obviously, her AAA success by winning an SO Cup. So she knew what it took to be competitive. She knew what it took to be a winner. And then it's just a matter of being able to learn how to coach the game, from the on ice and on the bench. Those are two different things. Like you see, there's a lot of great hockey players that may not turn into great coaches, but she was always a fantastic hockey player, knew the game really well, offensively skilled, and she's been able to translate that to the players on the team. The past couple of years with the Ice, for sure, she's really taken control of the forwards. She's managed the bench really well and getting the best players out in the right situation. And it didn't mean you always had the most talented individual on the ice. You just have to have the right player on the ice at the right time. And she recognized that. She was always you could see on the games that she's always a few steps ahead of the opposition coaches, being prepared to get the right girls on the ice. If she needed to make some changes during the game, she was ready to make those changes. And I would say in the first year we had a few more conversations, and she'd give her thoughts to me, and sometimes I'd give my thoughts to her. But I would say in this last year, she was pretty much doing it on her own, which was great for me, because then I didn't have to worry much about the forwards, what were going on. I just had to worry about the game, had to identify what I felt was the best situation. We would talk about things, and then we would create a plan, whether it was in game or between games. So.
And just talking about how you talked about what a great hockey mind she has, an offensive player winning an ESO Cup. So she has that championship experience under her belt from her playing time. But just talking about how there's so many great coaching staffs in this league, talking about how you might have a big advantage when you have a player like or a coach like that, sorry, but a coach like that can make those adjustments and really take some of the load off of you as a head coach.
Well, it's very interesting. I would say it's funny, in the last couple of years, and as you were just talking about that, I'm starting to think that as we got into the league, I'm starting to notice that more and more teams, coaching staffs now are pulling up former players to be part of their staff, girls that have played at the AAA level, so they can have that better connection with the players. And there's various programs, like you said. There is a lot of great coaching staffs. When I think of a Guy Williams out at Westman, who's probably one of the great knowledgeable guys within our game right now. Tons of respect for him. But he also recognizes that you want to be able to coach the whole player. And I think someone like Jessica helps that connection, because she's been there. Like us guys, we're great. We can tell you, we know the game. We can tell you what to do. But it definitely means a lot more to someone who's actually been there. And I think that's the huge advantage Jess has over me when it comes to having those conversations with some of the girls.
And I'm sure, like growing up, her being your daughter, you've obviously always been close, but being able to coach on the same coaching staff, I'm sure that brings you guys together so much closer.
Well, we've always been close because we spent a lot of time in her hockey career. And there's times we don't see eye to eye all the time.
Yeah.
But I think the thing I love about her is her passion that she has for the game, and the passion that she wants to make things right. We've had conversations where Sometimes I have to concede and say, okay, let's go your way and see how this works. And she's been right. And sometimes she will concede to me and say, hey, let's go your way. And I've been right. So it's knowing, and that's part of the coaching, right? You know your staff, trust your staff, listen to your staff. And like people have said, surround yourself with great people and it'll make you look great. And I've been blessed with that. I got Nicole Leslie on the defensive end, who's also been through the programs. And we've added Maddie Billick, who's also played at the AAA level. So we're excited about our staff. We got great people that are looking nothing but for the best for the players and the families. And yeah, we want to have success. And like you said, one of the aspects, we want to make sure we're having a good time, but we also want to be successful on the ice as well.
And so just getting into last season now, moving away from the coaching aspects of thing. Of course, the coaching aspect, since you're the coach joining the show, we're still going to talk about those coaching aspects throughout last year and what the plans are going into next year. But just talking about last year, just a huge jump for you guys going. I'm not sure. I've heard a lot of different records that you guys had, but I'm going off of the official website of the league saying you guys finished 20-8 in the regular season, good enough to get that second seed, 96 goals for and 64 against. So very well balanced team. You're third in goals for in the league and fourth in the least goals against in the league. Just talking about how you guys came into last season with a load of returning players, just talking about how their experience really came through last year and really making you guys the team that you were, and talking about the other players that stepped up, like the younger players.
Yeah, we had that was a key aspect for our team going forward. We had only lost a few players, not that many. We had a lot of returning players, and that was sort of our plan going in. We were building for the future, giving us an opportunity to be successful. And actually, to be fair, we were really thinking this was going to be our year that we would, our best opportunity. Turned out that last year was that situation, so we were ahead of the game. But having the returning players, even though they may have not been the older players in the league, they had a year under their belt. They had the maturity. They understood what we were doing as coaches, and they just grew. And like you said, we had a good balance of a team. And sometimes we had so much balance, it was either difficult or easy to get players on the ice. Sometimes it was just a matter of opening the gate and letting them go. And sometimes when you had to make a decision, it was still going, geez, man, it's 6-1, half dozen the other who we're going to have out there at this time.
Yeah.
And the nice thing we liked about that was all girls wanted to be on the ice. We didn't have a single girl that said, no, coach, don't put me out. They all felt that they can contribute, and we needed them all to contribute. And again, goes to that trust factor. And the players that took advantage of that had a fantastic season.
And just moving into the playoffs as well, you guys finished with a 6-3 record. Of course, you didn't get to improve upon that because of the pandemic that hit, but you had some talking about experience and building that experience going into this season. Just talking about the playoff run that you guys had. I know that I watched the interview you had with Theo at the time. You guys were preparing for the finals at the time, talking about the two series, and you said that they weren't easy series, and you said that game 5 against Yellowhead in the semifinals was a coin flip. But knowing that you were able to come out with the win in a game like that where it's considered a coin flip, knowing that the girls have that confidence under their belt, saying that, we could do this thing when the money is on the line.
Well, and that was the thing. Like, and you hit that nail on the head, Graeme, because we learned so much in those two series. Even the first series we had with Central Plains, we had a hiccup in a game where we didn't play well. Like Central Plains finished 7th, and in all rights we should have easily won, but it wasn't easy. And I think, again, goes down to maturity. Again, you're talking 15, 16, 17-year-old individuals who maybe don't have that same life experience as some of us do, that understanding what it takes to win a game, even if you're supposed to win it. It was a great learning opportunity for us to have some really good discussions with the girls in that first series to talk about what it takes to win a game. You can't walk in there. They want it just as much as you do. And trying to educate them on that, on the mental aspect of the game. And when they were successful and we went against Yellowhead again, it was a very tight series. Yellowhead was a fantastic team. Those final four teams, really, with Westman and the Avrils, any one of those teams could have won the series, won the whole championship. I don't think you would have shaken your head and say, "Oh my gosh, that was a huge upset." The top four teams were there, and any one of them could have won it. So when we went up against Yellowhead, and you're right, winning a game 5 when everything's on the line does nothing but boost confidence and empowers you to believe that you can do anything. And it also empowers you to believe that no matter what obstacles you're going to face, you're going to overcome them. And being able to lose a couple of games, and some of them were tight games, and then coming back and winning the next ones is so much there. You can't, as much as you want to practice, we could practice for a month prior to that, and we would never be able to generate that same type of confidence in a player. But winning a game 5, going into the finals, we were prepared that this was our year. We believed that we had a legitimate shot of being champions, just like anybody else did.
Yeah.
But we felt that this, and everyone, and the nice thing about it, you talk to a lot of individuals outside the team, coaches from other programs that talked to me about it and talked to other family members about it. They were all felt that we were ready to go, that we were playing some of our best hockey, and it was going to be very difficult to beat our team going into the finals. So it was nice. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to show that with the Avros. I know the league made the decision that we'd be co-championships, and we got the trophy over here on the side there.
Yeah.
So we were, as much as it would have been nice to be recognized as the sole champion, you know what? We're more than happy to share this with the Avros for sure.
Yeah, and it's such a great accomplishment no matter what. If you're a co-champion or even if you win a championship, obviously that's a bit on the hot. It's on an elevated level, winning the championship outright, but still being considered a co-championship in a league like you guys play in is a great accomplishment. So just going into this year, you got 11 returning players. I looked on your website, 9 seniors, 2 grade 11s. You got your 2 goaltenders back in Morgan Baker and Rylan Lupke. Just talking about how getting into the development that Morgan and Rylan have shown throughout the first 2 years of their career here with Winnipeg. Obviously, last year they took that really big step. How big of a step do you see them taking this year in their final year?
Well, Morgan's been with us since day one. Rylan came with us last year. And I saw the growth on them both. And I'm very excited moving forward with both our goalies. I without a doubt, as you know, and as the saying goes, coach is really only as good as your goalies. And we had great goalies last year and helped us get us into second spot and get us into the finals. Without them, we're not winning game 5. Morgan had a fantastic game against them, shut them out in the final game. And if you get a shutout from your goalies, you don't need to score that much. So moving forward, I feel with the likes of Morgan that we probably have one of the best goalies, if not the best goalie in the league going forward. And it's going to be up to her to prove that. And it's up to her. But she's been working hard this summer. Rylan's been working hard. I know, co-coach, good friend of mine, Gord Woodall, who's probably one of the premier goalie coaches, not just in the province, but in Canada, because he's with the Hockey Canada, the female program, as one of their coaches for the Team Canada. He's been working with them, and has nothing but high praise for their effort and their ability. So when you get that type of instruction, it's just a mental game at that point and believing in yourself. And I'm hoping that they could take advantage of that moving this year.
And Speak of the devil, this happens all the time. We were rolling so good. Everyone else can hear you, but I can't seem to hear you, Eugene.
Oh no.
But we're almost at the end of the interview. I'm just going to leave you off with this question. I have no idea what you said about your goaltenders, but I'm sure you gave them nothing but praise. But just talking about the returning players you have going into next year, of course, another year of Morgan Baker and Rylan Lubke. Just talking about big players coming back who are looking to improve upon the season they had last year, like Regan Udall and Martina Barkley, talking about the players that you guys are bringing in tryouts this season. I'm not sure if you guys have already completed the tryout process, but you guys got a good group of returning players. And like we were saying, talking about the skill level, the talent pool in the Winnipeg hockey scene for female hockey, I'm sure you guys have some great players coming up as well. So just building off of last year, all the experiences that these girls had, building off of that run, do you think that this team has what it takes to become champions in this league this year?
Oh, without a doubt, I would be. You know what? I'm going to be. I'm always cautiously optimistic, but we legitimately will be one of the top four teams easily this year. And I always say top four because I'm not going to put us on the pedestal at this point. Abros will have some talented individuals on their team, as you said. We just had our trials. We just completed it last night, as a matter of fact, and we've done our drafts, so our roster is set moving forward. We're, as a coaching staff, very excited about what's going to be coming forward. We have the returning players. We have some of the better better players in the league as well. We got that are just going to get better. You mentioned Rega and Martina. We have Juliana Duma. We have Maya Eamon. We got Sarah McGlennon. We got Sandrine and Garfalo, and it's all on the back end. Like, we are very deep, and we got players that just add to the program, and whether it's Kate Stewart or Brooke Oxenforth, who do work so hard on their defensive game and being great players for their teammates, doing what they need to do to help them out. I can't say enough. So, like, moving forward, I think the expectations is that we're going to do well. We should. I know there's, like, as a coach, you prepare. There's going to be hiccups along the way. You prepare for that. We're going to get into slumps. We're going to get into opportunities, and we doubt ourselves. That's all part of it. As a coaching staff, we need to be prepared to deal with that. Girls are going to get upset. There's going to be highs. There's going to be lows. That's a season. You can't get away with it. If we run, if it goes a perfect season, I can't see that happening.
Well, I think Eugene stopped talking. I think I'm only able to read his lips right now. Sure, you gave a great answer. Thank you so much for joining us today, Eugene. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and we're going to be sure to follow you guys throughout this season for sure. If anything comes up, I'm sure that you guys are going to be in that conversation again to become the champions in the Manitoba Female Hockey League here in Manitoba. So thanks for joining us, Eugene, today. I'll talk to you soon, and I hope you have a great rest of your summer and you stay safe out there with all this stuff happening in the world right now.
You as well, Graham. And hey, thank you guys for STV for taking this opportunity and showing interest into the programs, especially into the female programs. So, hey, anytime you guys want to have something to talk about, give me a shout for sure.
All right. Thanks, Eugene. Take care.
Okay.
And that was Eugene Kaminsky, head coach of the Winnipeg Ice AAA female U18 hockey team. And we were going pretty smoothly here on this edition of Coffee with Graham. It's a problem with my Wi-Fi, to be completely honest, guys. Some problems with the Wi-Fi, but it's a bit odd that this keeps happening. It's frustrating, but we got through it today. We got to 47 minutes before it cut out. So hey, there's a positive side to these connections going haywire. But before, I just want to get a bit serious here, talking about why I haven't been on as frequently. Last week, I was at the cabin, took a week off, and then we were back on last Thursday, and we were supposed to have a show on Tuesday, but something came up in my personal life that was very hard to deal with, and it's something that I've never had to deal with before. I'm not going to say about who it was, but it's just someone going through a very difficult time right now in their lifetime. And it's some pretty scary stuff. So just anyone dealing with mental illness, it's such a big thing. And I think that's the thing we don't talk about enough. And I don't have a number to promote here for you, for anyone that wants to reach out for help, but I will be putting one in my bio on my personal Instagram at Graeme Forsyth on Instagram. Going to be putting a link to a number there. So for anyone who wants to reach out to help, there's always help. And of course, you can always reach me in the DMs. You can always talk to us here at Amateur Sports TV. We'll be there for you. And it's just a difficult time right now in the world, along with this pandemic, the stuff going on with the States, with the whole Jacob Blake thing. But now this is just, it's a tough time to deal with, and it's a testing time. And I think that it's one of the terms in sports is being battle tested. And for sure, I know a lot of people are going through that right now. And me personally, I feel like everyone involved in the situation is going through that right now with this individual. So just if you guys ever need help, please speak out. You got family members that love you. You got friends that care about you. You got people that care about you. And I know that it's tough to look on the positive side at times, but you do always got to try to keep that in the back of your mind that there are people that care for you no matter how hard it gets. But yeah, number will be in my Instagram bio if anyone needs to reach out for help, or just talk to me, talk to anyone. Everyone cares who knows you, and everyone who's involved with you cares. So that's enough of me rambling. Kind of got emotional there for a minute, but yeah, it's a tough time, but we're gonna get through it. And thanks to every one of our supporters for supporting the show today. We did go live today on the network for this edition of Coffee with Graeme. Things were running smoothly until some connection problems on my side. I know at one point Eugene went out and then he came back in, kind of got scared there. You guys could rewind that. It was about 20 minutes into the interview, but this is enough of me rambling. I've been your host of Coffee with Graeme, Graeme Forsyth. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Have a great weekend and enjoy the rest of the summer. Peace out.